If you depend on a Social Security deposit and it doesn't appear when you expect it, that gut level alarm can hit instantly. And here's the twist: the delay may not be caused by Social Security at all. Across the United States, people are opening their banking apps, tapping refresh, and asking the same unsettling question: why hasn't my money arrived? For years, the routine feels dependable like clockwork: same timing, same amount, no surprises, until, for some recipients, that rhythm is quietly disrupted. There's no warning letter, no broad announcement, just a balance that stays empty where essential money is supposed to land. And when that happens, panic doesn't wait. Rent deadlines don't move, prescriptions still need refills, and groceries can't be postponed. When a Social Security payment arrives even hours later than you're used to, it doesn't feel like a minor hiccup. It feels like something is seriously wrong. What makes it even more unnerving is that everything looks normal on the surface. The benefit amount appears unchanged. The official payment date doesn't look different, yet the funds aren't usable. That disconnect matters because it signals a behind-the-scenes shift that many people only discover after it touches their own account. This is not a story about Social Security running out of money, and it's not about benefit cuts or sudden eligibility changes. It's about new banking rules sliding into place, rules that can affect when you actually gain access to a government deposit, even when the sending agency does everything on schedule. Once you understand the mechanics, the confusion starts to make sense, and the fear becomes easier to manage. Recently, online conversations and local community chatter have followed a repeating pattern. One person says their payment is late, another says their bank claims the deposit is under review, and then a rumor jumps in that benefits are being reduced or redirected. Those rumors are not accurate, but uncertainty spreads fast when the money you rely on suddenly feels unstable. What intensifies the stress is the silence. No press conference, no mailed notice aimed at seniors explaining the change. So an information vacuum opens up, and worry rushes in to fill it. Here's what's actually different. Social Security didn't suddenly rewrite its rules overnight, and your benefit wasn't quietly altered. The change is in how banks are now required to handle incoming government payments once the deposit reaches the financial institution. That means even when Social Security sends the money on time, your bank now plays a larger role in deciding when the deposit becomes available for you to use. That handoff creates a gap between sent and spendable, and it's inside that gap that delays are showing up. Some people see their deposit post later in the day than usual. Others experience brief holds while details are verified, and a smaller number are asked to confirm information they've never been asked to confirm before. None of this automatically means your benefits vanished, but when you aren't expecting it, it can feel sudden and personal. The reason this is happening is rooted in banking compliance, not Social Security policy, and seeing the full path of a payment from start to finish is the first step toward protecting your peace of mind. So slow the moment down and separate fear from facts, because the system is more layered than most people realize. A lot of recipients assume Social Security payments travel straight from the government into their personal account in a single, simple move. In reality, what you see in your account is the final step of a longer pipeline. And that final step is exactly where the new rules apply. The basic route looks like this. The U.S. Treasury releases funds based on Social Security's payment schedule, and that piece has not changed. Those funds move through the federal payment system, which routes millions of payments to financial institutions nationwide on precise dates. And most of the time, it runs smoothly. But here's the part most people never think about. Once your bank receives the incoming deposit, the bank, not Social Security, controls when and how the money becomes available inside your account. So even if the payment is transmitted on time, the bank can briefly hold it, review it, or delay access before releasing it to you. In the past, that step is largely invisible because it tends to happen automatically and instantly. Now that same step has more conditions attached, and even small added checkpoints can slow down the release. Over a recent year-long period, federal regulators have increased pressure on banks to tighten procedures around incoming government funds. The stated goals are fraud prevention, reducing identity theft, blocking account takeovers, and stopping illegal routing of benefits. On paper, that makes sense. No one wants criminals intercepting Social Security payments. But in practice, tighter controls mean banks may be required to run additional checks on certain deposits before making the funds available. It's not every payment and not every account, but it happens often enough that it's becoming noticeable. These checks are largely automated, powered by internal systems that scan for anything that looks out of the ordinary. And out of the ordinary doesn't always mean suspicious. It can mean recent updates, mismatched details, or activity patterns that don't perfectly match what the bank's systems expect. When that occurs, the deposit doesn't disappear. It pauses. That pause is where the confusion begins, because two different systems can both be correct while you're still waiting. From Social Security's side, the payment shows as sent and completed, so if you call, you may be told, truthfully, that the funds were issued on time. From the bank's side, the deposit shows as received but not yet cleared for release, so the bank may describe it as processing, under review, or awaiting verification. Both statements can be true at the same time, and you're stuck in the middle of systems that don't always communicate in a way that feels clear to the person depending on the money. That's why even a short delay can feel huge when it's tied to essentials. The key point is this. The change is not about whether you're entitled to benefits. It's about how banks are required to handle the funds once they arrive. When people hear phrases like flagged or under review, the mind jumps to worst-case scenarios because those words sound serious and final. In reality, a flag is usually not a judgment about you, your eligibility, or your benefit amount. It's a technical pause triggered by automated pattern scanning systems that focus on data points, not intent. Those systems don't understand your history or your circumstances. They simply look for mismatches, changes, or anomalies in the information they can see. When certain data points don't line up cleanly, the process slows down, sometimes for a few hours, sometimes into the next day or two, depending on what needs to be confirmed. What matters is that a flag deposit is still your money. It hasn't been canceled, reduced, or taken away. Most of the time, once verification is completed, the clearance happens quickly and the hold is lifted. What triggers a review often surprises people because it's rarely dramatic. A simple address update, a new phone number, or a change in how you access your account can be enough to look unusual to an automated system. Opening a new linked savings account or adding a joint account holder can also register as a notable change. To you, these are normal life updates. To the system, they can be signals that require confirmation under the tightened rules. In some cases, fluctuations in account balances can play a role as well, especially for accounts that receive needs-based benefits. Again, that does not automatically mean something is wrong. It can mean the system is doing exactly what it was programmed to do, even if the timing is inconvenient. Because these reviews are automated, you may not receive a clear explanation unless you contact your bank or respond to a verification prompt. And that's where frustration builds, because computer rules don't care that a landlord won't wait, that late fees don't pause, or that medication pickups are time-sensitive. The lack of urgency in the system makes the delay feel personal, even when it's procedural. Communication from banks is also inconsistent, which adds fuel to the anxiety. Some institutions send an app alert or an email quickly, while others don't notify you at all unless you ask or unless the review passes an internal threshold. That uneven communication is one reason rumors about benefit cuts or missing payments spread so fast when a deposit is absent. At the same time, banks are increasing automated outreach, and more recipients are seeing emails, text messages, or in-app notices asking them to confirm identity details, update contact information, or acknowledge updated account terms. If you aren't used to your bank contacting you this way, those messages can be easy to overlook or dismiss as routine. But ignoring them can unintentionally extend the hold because the system may be waiting for a response before releasing the funds. Once that confirmation is completed, the pause is often lifted quickly. A major problem is that many people don't realize the message is connected to the missing deposit, so they treat it as optional and move on, not knowing it's the key to unlocking access to the money. It's also important to balance caution correctly. Scams do exist, but verification requests can be legitimate when they come directly from your own bank through official channels. That's why it's safer to open your banking app directly or call the number on the back of your card instead of clicking links you aren't confident about. Taking a few minutes to confirm details can save days of stress. Not everyone experiences these pauses at the same rate, and that difference is another important piece of the puzzle. People receiving Social Security retirement benefits who haven't changed banking information in years may notice nothing at all, with payments arriving exactly as expected. But other groups are showing up more often in reports of temporary delays as these systems roll out more broadly. Recipients of SSI and SSDI are frequently mentioned, not because those programs are unstable, but because the accounts associated with them often show more frequent balance changes and may sit under stricter monitoring thresholds within banking systems. Survivor benefit recipients also appear in reports, particularly when they have recently switched banks or updated direct deposit information after a major life change. Even small administrative updates can increase the likelihood of a short review. The takeaway is straightforward. If you're affected, it does not mean you did something wrong, and it does not mean your benefits are at risk. It can simply mean your account matched a pattern that requires a second look under the new handling rules. And as frustrating as that is, it is usually temporary, with most delayed funds being released the same day or within 24 to 48 hours once verification is complete. Knowing who is more likely to be affected helps set expectations and reduces the shock if a delay happens. When you understand why something might occur, it loses much of its power to trigger fear. This is also why the experience can feel emotionally exhausting. You can call Social Security and be told the payment was sent on schedule in the correct amount to the correct bank, and from their records, everything looks normal. Then you call the bank and hear language like still processing, under review, or waiting for verification, and it can sound like someone is passing responsibility. But the reality is that each side is describing the truth from its own perspective. Social Security's role largely ends once the payment is released into the federal system. After that point, the bank controls availability. That invisible handoff between sent and available is where these new requirements create tension. And when the wait stretches, the pressure multiplies. A delay of a few hours can be annoying but manageable. When it pushes into the next day, anxiety rises because bills don't wait and penalties don't pause. For many households, Social Security is not extra income, it's the foundation. So a brief delay can ripple into overdraft fees, missed payments, or having to choose which expense gets paid first. That's why the emotional impact is driven by uncertainty, not by an actual loss of benefits. Uncertainty grows fastest when there's little communication explaining what's happening or how long the verification will take. Banks are not always required to notify you immediately when a government deposit is placed under review. So for many people, the first sign is simply the absence of money on the expected day. No alert, no explanation, just silence. And silence is exactly where fear thrives, pushing people towards speculation that feels convincing but isn't grounded. So what do you do if your deposit doesn't arrive when you expect it? The most important move is to stay focused on the right next step, instead of assuming the worst. Panic often pushes people to call Social Security first, but in many delay situations, that call can't provide the details you need because Social Security can confirm the payment was sent but cannot see what happens after it reaches your bank. The faster path to clarity usually starts with your financial institution. A quick call or visit where you ask directly whether your incoming government deposit is on a review or verification hold can immediately explain what's going on. In many cases, that single conversation reveals exactly what the bank needs to release the funds, and once you know the cause, the problem feels smaller and more manageable. You can also take steps to reduce the chances of a delay happening in the first place. Start by checking that your bank profile is current. Your address, phone number, and email should match what the bank has on file, because even small mismatches can trigger automated reviews under the tightened rules. Next, pay attention to messages from your bank. App notifications, emails, or texts requesting identity confirmation are not random and can be directly tied to deposit processing. Responding promptly can prevent a short pause from turning into a longer hold. If you're unsure a message is legitimate, don't ignore it blindly. Instead, open your banking app directly or contact the bank using an official phone number to verify it safely. Another practical step is learning your bank's deposit timing policies. Some banks make funds available immediately upon receipt, while others operate with internal processing windows that can delay availability by several hours, even when everything is normal. Knowing how your bank typically handles government deposits helps you set realistic expectations and recognize when something is truly outside your usual pattern. If your payment remains unavailable beyond one standard banking business day, follow-up becomes especially important. Ask specific, direct questions. Has my account been flagged for review, and what documentation or confirmation is required to clear it? Clear questions often lead to clearer answers and faster resolution. It's also worth preparing for the possibility of a brief pause so it doesn't throw your entire month into chaos. If Social Security is your primary income source, building even a small buffer when possible can reduce stress during a transition period like this. That might mean adjusting due dates with creditors, setting reminders, or keeping essential bills flexible where you can. These steps are not always easy, but they can buy breathing room while banks continue adapting to updated compliance standards. The goal is not to expect delays every time, it's to be resilient if one occurs. Looking ahead, this is the phase when many institutions are fully implementing these updated banking procedures. So awareness is especially valuable right now. Most people continue receiving payments exactly as they always have and may never notice any difference at all. For those who do experience a delay, it is typically short-lived and resolved once verification is complete. These are not permanent changes to how Social Security operates, and they do not signal instability in the program itself. They reflect a shift in how banks manage risk and compliance around government funds. Keep this perspective in mind. Social Security remains one of the most stable and reliable programs in the country. Your benefits are not being reduced, quietly phased out, or erased because of unseen changes. What's happening is procedural, not personal. The vast majority of payments still arrive as expected, and for those that pause, the pause is generally tied to verification rather than eligibility. Large systems don't recalibrate perfectly overnight, and banks are still adjusting, updating internal processes, and fine-tuning how the new checks are applied. That can make the experience feel uneven. One person sees no change, another sees a brief hold. But unpredictability does not automatically equal danger. It can simply mean the system is in transition. During transitions, the people who fare best are the ones who stay informed and proactive rather than reactive. Knowing which questions to ask, who to contact, and which signals to watch for puts you back in control even when timing feels uncertain. If there's one takeaway to hold on to, it's this. A delayed deposit is not the same as a lost benefit. It doesn't mean Social Security failed, and it doesn't mean you're facing a sudden financial change without explanation. It means your payment is moving through a system that now includes more checkpoints than it used to, and those checkpoints can be inconvenient, but they are usually pauses, not roadblocks. As these updates continue rolling out, your strongest tools are simple. Keep your account details current, stay alert to official bank messages, respond quickly when verification is requested, and stay grounded in facts instead of rumors. Online speculation loves the silence between sent and available, but the reality is far less dramatic. Your benefits remain yours, the monthly support you rely on remains intact, and being prepared now prevents unnecessary stress later. When you understand the pathway from treasury release to bank availability, you're no longer left guessing, endlessly refreshing in fear, or wondering if something has gone wrong. You know what's happening, why it's happening, and what to do if it touches your account, and that knowledge turns uncertainty into confidence. Char count 18965.